La 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 Adam's little vlog.
Tally ho everybody, this is Heap Games, Adam speaking, and here is my review of episode 3 of Robot Wars 2017. Better than the last two. Part of me just wants to forget that the last two ever happened, so this is Heat 1 of Robot Wars 2017. Now the first thing that struck me is the robots that we had in this heat. So the first group was Concussion, Thor, Chimera 2 and Tauron, I think is how you pronounce it. At first it looked a bit... none of them really stands out. Thor looks beastly, by the way. It looks brilliant. Thor, I think it looks so much better than the last series Thor. I don't know, it just looks fantastic. So I was pleased to see Thor in it there, looking as good as it did. Concussion looked a bit like Pulsar from last series. Tauron, vertical spinner. They've become a bit of a taboo subject for me with the whole Banter Wars thing going on. And what was the other one? Chimera 2. Looks better than the old one. And looked like quite an interesting robot, but you knew it wasn't going to go very far. I looked at the wheels and I thought they looked a lot like Gabriel's wheels from last season. So I thought, actually, maybe something better could happen here. Maybe those wheels are a bit more, or a bit tougher than the old ones. But it wasn't to be. Tauron went with the first blow, so nothing came of that robot, unfortunately. That was rather disappointing. And Chimera 2, what happened with that one? I know that Chimera 2 went out, and it didn't make much of an impact. So we had Concussion and Thor going through, which were the deserved winners of that group. Then there was the second group, and I instantly loved this second group battle because I loved all the robots. They all looked fantastic. Firstly, you had Mr. Speed Squared, or MR Speed Squared, which I think it's much nicer to say Mr. Speed Squared, but each to their own, I suppose. I liked that one last series. Happy to see it back, and it was fantastic. It sort of spun around in the air, did a mauler, and I found out what a mauler was about 2 weeks ago. But that one was entertaining. You also had Foxic, which looks amazing. In the same way that Thor has really improved how it looks, I think Foxic as well looked fantastic. A shame that it couldn't turn itself back over. I don't think we really got an explanation as to why that it couldn't. So it was a shame to see Foxic go out so early, but it did look fantastic. We also had Heavy Metal, which became my favourite of the group. Now, I never thought that a robot called Heavy Metal would be pink and bright blue, but despite that, it looked fun, and it was fun. Not sure if the weapon was very effective, it never really did anything, but still, it was fun, and it did surprisingly well, because it was well driven. I think it was the fight against Mr. Speed Squared, and then the start of its fight with Thor. It was driven very well, really very well, and I've been hinted that it might have been, well, the team might have entered previously with another robot. Dunno. That's all rumour that I've heard. What was the other one? Another one that I liked, I remember that. It was... I'm having a look here. Expulsion, that's the one. It was interesting. Wasn't that effective in the arena, but then that's never been my standard for what makes a robot likeable. So Expulsion, I liked the idea. Something a bit unique, a bit different. And it looked weird as well. So I liked that one. Those four in that group battle, I'd have loved to see them all progress through to the next round. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. So we had our semi-final. And... well, this wasn't as bad as last week's episode by a long way. But crap happened again. The pit. It was descended by about that. All the way around. So when Concussion was against Thor, it was pretty even battle up to that point, probably in favour of Concussion, who eventually went on to win it, so this issue didn't really play much a part in that, but it could have done. It went on the pit and it descended and it couldn't get out for ages. It was probably at least about 15-20 seconds. It was just bouncing off the sides of it, and Thor was just looking on like, well, what the hell's happened here? And then it went to hit the pit release, but apparently, according to the Robot Wars Reddit, there was edits and it didn't happen the way it's seen on camera, and this sort of crap shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't need to go onto the Reddit to try to find out the truth of what happened. That's just the way it is. But you've got to take into account what happened in the last episode, as much as I hate to have to bring up that episode. Cherub went underneath the floor flipper and got stuck. Now that word's important, stuck. It wasn't able to get out of there on its own accord, essentially. Concussion got stuck on the pit. It was still moving, unlike Cherub when it got stuck. But it was stuck. It couldn't get off that pit. It was stuck in the arena hazard when it shouldn't have been. And yet Cherub's fight was restarted within about 3 seconds of it getting stuck. Cease was called and the game was restarted. Concussion was there about, between 10 and 20 seconds, maybe even more. It was stuck in there. And Thor had the opportunity to go back and hit the pit descend button, and it went to the rogue. I'm not sure if the producers made it deliberately so it went to rogue, so that if they knew that if the pit descended and concussion dropped in, they would be in. People would probably stop watching, because that's clear. Just flaw. I mean, we've covered flaws. Half the arena, not half, corners of the arena being unviewable to certain roboteers. And the pit falling to pieces anytime someone flicks it. And the pit descending, it's happened a few times, but never this bad. Concussion actually got stuck throughout the whole thing. And it's not like it's got the lowest ground clearance. It's not that type of robot. And it just couldn't get out. Even frickin' Matilda got stuck. And she hasn't got that much ground clearance low to the ground, so... I mean, come on. BBC needs to do a better job of building these arenas, and we need more consistency when Cease is called, because as far as I was concerned, as soon as they realised that Concussion couldn't get out of any of the sides of the pit, they should have stopped the battle, if they're going to be consistent with the Cherub battle in the last one, because Cherub got stuck, and Concussion got stuck, and yet Thor was given the opportunity to hit the pit release button, and the house robots were coming in. So it needs to be more consistent than this. It really does, because it's doing my head in. And thankfully the rest of this episode was alright. Apart from when Concussion beat Mr. Speed Squared, even when it was immobilised. Yeah, so the pit thing wasn't the only thing in this episode. I believe it was Concussion versus Mr. Speed Squared. So Concussion was dominating the battle up to this point. It never really got killed off Mr. Speed Squared. So credit to Mr. Speed Squared for still going, even though in the second round it just sort of didn't start against Thor. So credit to them for keeping it moving. And then near the end, we saw Concussion smoking. And it smoked for a while, and then it just... half of it didn't work. Some of it with the drive was obviously breaking in there. And for a while, it was just spinning in circles. I mean, do you consider that immobilisation? I was thinking to myself, earlier on, a wheel came off of Heavy Metal, so it was only working on one side. And Cease was called, it was counted out. Why is that not applied here? Well, yeah, sure, the wheel's not come off, but it's not working. It's clear to everyone that it's not working. And yet Concussion goes on to win the battle. Thankfully, the reason this hasn't made this another 1 or 2 out of 10 is because it didn't affect the overall standings. Mr. Speed Square was going out, Concussion was going through to the final. So it didn't have an effect, but still, what's going on here? Just every episode has these moments. It used to be in earlier Robot Wars. This would be once every series or twice every series something controversial happened. Maybe a few more. But this is almost like 2, 3 every episode now. And I don't know. Hopefully next week will be improvement. But again, this one was much better. Congratulations to Concussion for winning. Congratulations on Thor for getting to the Heap final. I think at the moment you'll be the favourite for the wild card, but God knows what can happen in this series. They might pick Expulsion for all I care. So I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10. I enjoyed the robots. I thought, yeah, there were controversial moments, but it didn't have an effect on the outcome. It could have done. It could have done. And that's why this isn't a 7 or an 8 out of 10. So 6 out of 10. good episode. I'm considering this one the first episode of this series. The other two can toss off. It's been a Heap of Games, Adam speaking. And remember, if you do like Robot Wars, to check out my Banter Wars series on YouTube, which has got entries wanted. So if you like building robots on a computer as well, you can enter that into my Banter Wars competition. There should be links on below, but it's all over my channel as well, so you're not going to struggle to find it. Banter Wars, go check it out. Thank you very much for watching. Ta-ta!